Hi, everyone. So, I have the honor to present the next panel with the 4 CRM pros of the industry, Sandro, Patrick, Nils, and Marcel. And we will be talking about the power of first-party data. Guys, where are you? I feel quite alone.
Okay.
Woo! Thanks for joining me, guys. I'm really happy to have you. Obviously, I have prepared some questions, but I'm not really in the mood because I had a lot of interviews beforehand. So, guys, I want this to be a discussion, please. If you are thinking differently or anything, please go ahead, jump in, tell them what they can do better. But in general, I would like to do a little intro, saying that as a former head of marketing, when my general manager, and sometimes also Daniel, tells me, oh, we need to write a monthly newsletter, a generic one, I'm go like, why? Why do we have to do this, right? So I think we can use our data way better than just write monthly newsletters. Am I right? Okay, who of you is privately signed up for a newsletter? Obviously, you are for the job. Yeah, for hospitality, but privately, hospitality industry club. I mean, in a hotel newsletter. Any of you?
Yeah, I'm signed up, but the other question is how many of them I read.
Okay, so how many do you read?
1 or 2.
Okay, that's something at least. That's something at least. Okay, guys, let's take it from scratch. Nils, what are the starting points for a hotel? How can they use their data?
I think that, first of all, very important for hotels where we start off wrong is to start with clean data. Clean data is, it's already difficult to explain what it is, because when do you know when your data is clean and when is it not clean? And most of the PMSs actually, they store whatever you put in, which is normal. And as your receptionist or your operational staff, mostly they do not care so much about data because they do not understand the importance of it. Most of the PMS data is dirty. In the sense that there's too much information, or there is information that is not important, or there is information that is inaccurate or not correct because they copy it from a website, or they had to fill in something, so they put a dot or a 1, because like this, the system allows them to go further. So what you need, according to me, is a smart system that combines or takes data from the different systems and then groups it together depending on matching points, IATA code, email address, telephone number, combination of different data. In many European countries, you need to fill in the nationality ID number. I mean, I know for reception it's a pain, but if you oblige in your PMS to fill in the national ID number, you have a unique ID per client, and you know who is who, because tomorrow he cannot end up in a different hotel with different national ID number. The worst case that can happen is that one day he gives his national ID number and the next day he gives his passport number. That's the only issue you can encounter. So that's a starting point. Make sure that every client has a unique ID, and try to get a CRM or a smart system that allows you to group all the PMS data or POS data or website data together. And coming back to your first thing, stop sending emails to everybody. I mean, to the question, how many subscriptions do you have? I have very little, because most of the time when I subscribe and I receive generic emails afterwards, I unsubscribe right away because I understand that it's not relevant to me. It's only subscriptions that are personalized to me that I continue being subscribed to and I read to. So I don't know how you guys are.
I fully agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's why I was saying 1 or 2 I'm reading, and they're actually changing from time to time, and it's, you know, the content has to be interesting for me, so I stay subscribed. We see in a lot of implementations we are doing, we are seeing that hoteliers are proud of their huge database they're having and which they collected over the last 30 years. More than half of it is actually trash, and it's not actual anymore. And why do you put the time and the money in there to reach out to these guests or customers if they actually don't even read it or don't respond to you? So it's better to have a clean database with less data than having a huge database with rubbish data.
And what about GDPR, Sandro? It's been more difficult now. How do hoteliers can obtain data still with those restrictions?
I think there's a lot of different ways to collect data, and especially in the hotel industry. GDPR, when it was introduced, there was this huge hoteliers were actually really worried. Oh no, now I have to send everybody and request that I can keep on using the data, and they lost a lot of data, so they were worried about it. But well, that gets back to the same point what I just mentioned. Like, why do you want to reach out to these people if they're anyways not answering or not reading what you're sending to them?
What are the ways, Sandro, especially? You mentioned there are different ways to obtain data. Can you name them exactly?
To collect them,
Yes.
collect the data? Well, it starts with the registration card in the hotel. It starts with if somebody makes a booking in your booking engine, it is the data you're getting passed from OTA. So there's many ways of starting collect the guest data or the customer data. It's more like what was mentioned then, like how do you keep that data clean and keep on using it?
Yeah, and going back to the fact on GDPR, nobody lost data or clients with the GDPR registrations. What happened is that they were forced to clean up their database and make sure that the database was qualityful. And indeed, there's a lot of hotels who were worried about that. And I'm like, why do you worry? If they're clients who are loyal to your brand, they will just respond and say, yes, I want to continue being subscribed. What was a pain for the hotels, and which was very badly prepared by hotels, is the way they asked their clients if they wanted to continue being subscribed to their newsletters. It was a very forced situation where even me in my inbox, I received on that day when they had to do the switch, or the day before, mass emails with the same question. Answer with yes, or the way most of the hotels did it was terrible. Was not 2021 or 2020.
What would have been a good way then? Any of you can answer. It's a hard question, I think, because
No,
you have
I just
to
wanted to add there as well. GDPR, I think that brought actually interesting topics to the table, right? So giving the customer the ownership about his data, being transparent, what kind of data we collect and what we do with it. I think, especially now in times where third-party cookies disappear and all these kind of things, it's getting more and more relevant, right? So all the big data companies like Google and Apple, etc., they will all have some restrictions on tracking and all these kind of things. So we talk more and more about first-party data. We just talked about it. You have all kind of different solutions in place where data is collected, right? And the key element is to bring it all together, have one single source of truth, a view on your customer, and then make sure that you can access that data amongst the entire guest journey, right? So where they are, is it in the booking phase, is it on property, whatever it might be. So the entire company is accessing the same data, right? So is it marketing, is it sales? And they should make further use of that. And I think the greatest opportunity we have now is that we have modern, solutions out there coming up, right? In the past, everything was siloed, different systems not talking to each other. Now it's an open API infrastructure where you can say it's not only historical data I can use, but also you can use real-time data, right? And the balance between those, using both in a smart way, that's, I think, the opportunity where we're all part of now already, but it will definitely improve even in the future.
And adding to that, I think, starting with GDPR and now, of course, the whole COVID phase, that put a lot of stress on hoteliers, and it put a lot of stress on the relationship guest to hoteliers. But this stress and all of this, and like in every normal relationship, or any if it's customer, or if it's hotelier guest, or if it's our own personal relationships, the number one thing when you're under stress is communication. That's the only thing that's going to solve it, and that adds to this whole story. And I think when you look at the situation of hoteliers, then that said, well, I need to reach out to my guests. I want to engage with them, and that's when they looked into the 150,000 or whatever contacts they had in their PMS and realized, well, half of them are mass OTA email addresses, and the rest I don't even know if those emails still work. And that whole process, led to technology, and that's why before this all started, we were already engaging with hoteliers, and we were talking and saying, hey, there's a PMS, there can be a CRM, there can be many other tools. I think now is really the time, and that's what we're seeing. Communication is the only thing that's going to solve it, and that's where technology can incredibly adjust. Lean into technology. We're there to help and support.
I think a good point is also like really giving the guests access to their data. Yeah. So we said like, okay, we're like connected to the guest journey, the booking engine, for example. If you have a guest login that somebody wants to stay with you more often, I mean, in any online shop, you can access your data, you can change your address, you can change certain preferences if you want this specific newsletter or not. So think about let's say a small hotel group, giving them access to this data to say, okay, this and this is my preferences, this is my address, this newsletter from this property I want to receive, but this one not. Yeah. First of all, you let them handle it, and they like to take care of the data themselves. Second of all, you don't have the work to do it yourself. You keep your data clean, and they're doing it themselves. So it's all around, and I think that's the right direction we need to go.
I fully agree, and I think human errors is a typical thing, right? So if the people or the customer is managing his own data, I mean, that's fantastic. And I think the other thing we have to be aware of is the fact that, if getting a consent from a customer is not for a lifetime, right? So you have to be fully relevant in everything you do and generate, benefits for the customer. Understand why he's willing to give his data and what is it he wants to have in return. But I think we're all, if we look in e-commerce and other areas, there's a lot of things we really like about Amazon, the seamless experience and all these kind of things, right? And people are willing to share that data, but they want to get something back for it. And we come back to the starting point, like a general newsletter for everyone, right? Which is not relevant at all. So I think that's what we have to better understand. If we know what the customer wants, what kind of data he's willing to share at each of the different touch points which we have, and then make fully use of that, I think that's the way to go forward.
Absolutely. I think also that hoteliers are pretty aware that they need to use CRM to go a step further. One of the pain points for a hotelier probably it's nice to have the system, and probably I can operate it at 10% because I don't have the human resources on site to operate it. So the systems are great and they can do a lot of things, but I don't have the people to operate on site on that. And that's why we often get also called and people say, hey, they like the system, but they don't have anyone to operate it, What do you tell hoteliers? What could be a solution to that?
Well, I think it's all about automation, right? In a smart way, but not that, it's not going to replace any employee, but it's helping you to spreading the right message at the right time to the right person when he's open for that kind of communications. And that's why I'm not only talking only about CRM, but I think it's more now in going into direction, because when we started 20 years ago, we've probably been one of the early adopters in CRM part. Yeah, now we talk about a CDP where we can have much more data collected and making that more actionable. So it's an end-to-end storyline, right? So if you have this profile, we basically, due to the entire COVID situation, more and more of the guest journey moved into the digital space, right? So went online. So more of the experience he has will be part of all kind of tools and solutions you have there. So that must be exactly as seamless as what you have on property if you want to generate an experience. So that means end-to-end, the website should be seamlessly integrated. All the other solutions which you have, right? So it should be all out of one hand. So personalized website experience, personalized ads in digital marketing, and these kind of topics, right?
Yeah, and it's also about investment. Hotels, at least the hotels I spoke to before I founded Thynk, is they always tell me, yeah, but we don't want to invest so much in technology. And then I'm like, but if tomorrow your elevator breaks down, you need to pay 50K, 100K maybe to replace them. But then investing 20K annually in technology that will probably replace people or will make people be more customer-centric and less busy with administrative tasks, that is too much. I don't think it makes sense.
Liza, I think it's also interesting, what Marcel said, that the more we look at the situation and the more it's more moving from just a CRM to more a guest data platform. Actually, when you match that with the current shortage in staff that we see around the world, I mean 1 in 3 hospitality jobs got lost, needs to be replaced. Everyone's looking for staff. We did a recent survey, and I think in the European region, out of the hoteliers, we asked 94% said, yeah, I need to cut down on room cleaning, I need to cut down on service. At the same time, we are having more conversations than ever before. Because it's not about, okay, now I'm finally installing a guest data platform CRM, but it's like, I need this technology, and then we help with of course, the proper training, all that, but we help with automation. So it's not that every single member of the hotel staff needs to look into the CRM to get the right information. Huh? You get it on your mobile, you get it in an early morning arrivals report, all of this. It's all about automation. So while in the past I often heard like, well, do I have the staff to operate this? Well, now there's 1/3 less staff, but we're having more conversations about this than ever before. So
I think on one side, letting the guests handle a lot of these kind of things themselves. But then on the other side, it's great that we have events like this because it's just missing the knowledge, I think. So there's really like hoteliers think, oh, I need a huge workforce to handle this. But it's just one person putting certain automation processes like drip campaigns or whatever after a smart segmentation into place. And then afterwards, you do it once, and then the system is doing everything for you over quite a long period of time, completely automated. So I think very often the problem is the misunderstanding, and it happens that once I see some technology which I can grab or where I have more knowledge about, like for example, implementing a streaming service in my hotel room, yeah, that's something, okay, I have the budget, I spend it for it, and I make it available because I see the value, because I use Netflix at home and I want to have it. But if it comes then to a CRM, for example, it's just missing the knowledge, and that's why there's a lot of misunderstanding, and we need more education to give hoteliers the future they need for this.
And I think it's mostly the fault of the history. Hoteliers are used to have one system that does it all, and they pay a lot of money for it, where they have to get the understanding that if they have a certain size, they will need more systems, which seamlessly integrates with each other by OpenAPI, compared to a smaller hotel. They will just need a PMS who try to keep it clean and then link some upselling systems or whatever. So every hotel is different, but use the tools that are available and look at your organization, what am I missing? And I'm not saying that every hotel needs a CRM, because not every hotel needs a CRM because they're too small or their operation doesn't allow it. It really depends on your concept. But please use technology that is available today for what it's meant to be. I mean, your PMS is not there to be your loyalty system or to send out emails or to do the upselling. I mean, every system has its use, and use it and connect them with each other. And I agree that probably 10 years ago, connecting 2 systems with each other was like a big investment and a lot of effort. But today, connecting, let's say, Oki with Muse is done in 2 hours. So use that technology and do not be scared to try something new. Most of the partners that we work with, they're willing to do a proof of concept. So you say like, I want to test it out for 2 months without costs because I don't want to take the risk. I don't see any of our partners who said, no, we cannot do it. I mean, if you want to sell your product to a client, you're not scared to show it to them before they're going to pay for it. So that I would say to hoteliers, try something new. Try to limit the risk. And if it doesn't work, move on to something new. Simple as that.
And don't get just stocked with email, yeah? So there's many other ways also to do successful marketing campaigns. Doesn't matter if it's chat services, social media, meta search, even in the property, like when the guest is already there. So this is all in the end also going back to the data itself.
Now, I think that's a very important point you just mentioned here, because I think it's very important to understand that this system you have in place with a single source of truth, if you look at a database you have in place, and go back to COVID when that started, right? You had to switch your complete mindset if it comes to who I'm targeting, who I'm talking to, what kind of segments, etc. Right? So a CRM helps you, or a CDP helps you extremely to make a quicker move, and also to understand what are your best customers currently, what are the preferences and interests they have, and what kind of typical customers I would like to have more of, right? Lookalike modeling, all these kind of things where you can, be much smarter with your marketing based on data you have, and much more efficient. And especially now, third-party cookies moving away is going to be a big issue there,
Absolutely.
right?
I have a question. Philip has a question, but I'll join him.
Hey, thank you very much for sharing that. That's very interesting. I just wanted to give a bit the side of the hotelier, because everything you say...
Go on stage.
Ooh.
Come on, yeah, come on.
I have 10 minutes time. Actually, I like what you say. So now that the diversity is totally gone on the stage, I like what you say, but there is one little problem, and that's what I face as a hotelier. All of you look from top to bottom. The people entering the data have to understand why they do it. Yeah. And where you fail at, because you always say where the hoteliers fail at, where you fail at is transporting the why to the people adding the data. They don't get it. So for me to add a CRM, you're right, it's just an easy click to add Oki via Muse. Mm-hmm. But the data still has to go in there. So I'll pay for the service, and at any point I have to pay my staff to make it happen, to give the data in. Because that is not solved by all of you or by all of that. So that's a bit the thing that I have to give back. So looking at you guys, solve this and I can buy.
But you need to, it's absolutely true what you're saying. You need to create a culture around the data, yeah? So...
I create it, and I pay for you. So that you say I have to create the culture, and I pay you. There you go.
We will help you create the culture.
but I pay you.
No, but I think there's something that I fully agree with you, and there's something we already had it 4 weeks ago at the HSMA Day. We had that conversation where we look at the guest journey, and we're talking to you and say, hey, we built the perfect guest journey, everything automated. And then one hotelier said, well, what I need is a staff journey. It's exactly the opposite, and I fully agree, because especially when you look at a shortage of staff, everyone's under stress anyways. If you get new colleagues now, the old colleagues need to work them, everything needs, at the same time, we're trying to implement a CRM. So I fully agree with that, and that's why all of us as tech vendors, we need to make sure that we pick up your staff where they are, and we help building this picture with little examples, like whatever we're sending out in the morning, like in the arrivals report. Hey, you're at the front desk, your general manager wants that you put in the right email. We send a report of the guests arriving if the email still works. At the same time, there's a report maybe going to housekeeping, saying, hey, housekeeping, these are the VIPs checking in today, these are their requirements. So they see there's little help coming out of this whole big bash of data. And that's what we call staff journey. I fully agree.
What you say is absolutely right. We talked about that 2 years ago already, matching the customer journey and the staff journey. But the thing is, because I think you said it, I cannot ask my staff to use 4 or 5 different tools. No. And that's basically what we do when we don't have a one-stop shop thing. I want my staff to be at ease and easy to add information, because I have to create a value within the culture to tell them, hey, what you do now as a small chain will be my capital tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Just a second. I included Martin Duchateau from May de Louise. Yeah. Because he and I had just a talk about exactly this thing in the morning, the thing that you said. And I said, well, that's a pain in the you-know-where. And I said, how do you deal with it? And what did you tell me? Probably it helps.
No, the discussion we had is that, so for the moment, I don't have any CRM. I had a CRM 2 years ago, but for the moment, on the market, I don't find any CRM for my needs. As Nils was saying, it's a small hotel. I've got a 50-bedroom hotel, so maybe I'm too small for CRM, which I don't believe. But on the other hand, I'm using Apaleo as a PMS, so I could go to Cendyn, or I go to Revinate easily and everything. But what I'm looking at as CRM, it's really to help me in terms of a mix about CRM and AI, saying, okay, guy, tomorrow, that's your arrival list for tomorrow. Please be careful, this guy, it's a stand stay. Offer him something. This guy, he loves chocolate. He always buys some chocolate in the boutique, in the hotel boutique. I really need some help, some practical help that would really help me to surprise our guest. And for the moment, that's a little bit missing into, it's not automated, it's not streamlined. So it's something that I'm looking as a hotelier.
Yeah, and I think maybe I misexpressed myself. It's not that you need it. It depends on what you do with the data. I was talking about small 50-bedroom hotels. If they just sell all the rooms via OTA and they don't want to do anything with the data, because they have 2 people working at the reception to make the reception just run, then you don't need a CRM. But I know your use case and I know what you want to do with data, so you definitely need a CRM. And as we said, automation, guest flows, workflows will definitely help. And there are various possibilities available. The thing is, you will need to put time in it, because to put those flows into place, you need a project manager. And going back to the question of student hotels, in the beginning when we started the company, we just said we need somebody in the hotel, being in charge of the project to help us and answer our questions. Very rapidly, we realized that is not working. You need 2 people on board. One person who can make a decision and who can say, we go for A, we go for B. Another person who's working at the reception, who's operational. And this morning in my talk, what I said is that management has a vision of what the operation is running, but that doesn't match the reality. The reality is always very different to what management thinks how the hotel is run. And having somebody operationally on board and having face-to-face conversations with them, you get the truth out of it. And you see and you can learn from the hotel, from the reception or from the food and beverage what they really do and why they do it. And the example was the fact that they put 1 because that allows them the system to go forward. You need to understand why they do that. Like, how come they do not have time at the check-in or when they're checking their daily tasks to fill in the full number, and they fill in 1 because it allows the system to go forward. So there are 2 effects on that. First of all, they feel involved, so they're going to understand the importance of data, because you explain them, if you put in a 1, that process cannot be launched, that person doesn't come back, less people come in the hotel, and you may lose your job. It's pretty dramatic, but at the end, that's what it ends up to. And if the whole reception team understands the importance of putting in that 1 or putting in that entire national ID, they will go with it, and we got you covered.
You told me, either way, where I wanted to go with this is you told me that you change your systems. You have a Paleo and you can switch it off and on as you wish. And you do that, and your employees, your staff is with you and they go ahead with you. And I think that's what's generally missing in hotels. How did you educate them to be like that? Because that's perfect.
Yeah, but I think it's a culture. It's a new hotel. It's 8 years old, so it's not. I'm not facing with employees that had 20 years there, at the computer, and so it's really a culture that you have to do from day one. And from day one, they know that they will see me arriving at reception. They'll go, oh shit, are we going to change system again? Are we going to change processes again? So the team is really used to it, and they're very exciting to see that we are changing, we are adapting all the time. So I think it's something. It's really based on the culture of the company.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Many years back, I was working in a hotel, and we didn't have a CRM or anything. We had a Springer Miller PMS system at that time, and we implemented new processes and strategies with having incentives also for our staff. So each employee, for example, was supposed to collect 3 preferences per day, and then the nightie at nighttime was putting it into the system. Working with these incentives, and then, for example, with your wine provider or whoever, the one who collected most in the week gets a bottle of wine or whatever, these kind of things, you can make it more interesting. And once you start using this data, it also actually makes a lot more fun for the staff to do name usage, use the preferences they have, and so on. So it is a difficult process. It needs consultancy from the outside, where the tech vendors for sure need to take that lead and work together with the hoteliers.
But I just wanted to add there, you're completely right. But I think it's not only the hotel tech providers, right? I mean, even hotel schools have to live up to technology on this standard where it is today, right? So it starts end to end into the entire branch. And the other thing is, what I wanted to add there, I think it's a combination of everything, right? Exactly what you're saying. So I think which is really helping to enable customers themselves, make them understandable what the benefit is if they manage their own data, if they give their data themselves. So in the pre-stay phase, with a survey, with a member portal or a guest recognition portal where they can manage it themselves. But also things as, and that goes more than what I mentioned before, having now those seamless integrations, right, in real time, being able to have two-way communication. So entering data once, I think that's key, because in the past you have different systems, you have entered in one and no other system knows it, right? So it must be end-to-end, two-way, everything connected. That's helping. Sorry,
Perfect.
I have to quit, I guess,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, thank you very much. Time is over. Yeah, no, thanks a lot, and thanks for making this very interactive. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Philip,
Thanks a lot.
and you
Thanks,
guys as
Martin.
well.
Thank you.
Have a lovely
Thank you.
day.
Bye-bye.
Where we go then?